today, he does a better job of allowing somebody to do that. So I had this deal with my wife, for instance, that said, look, I'll go on every time the kids are off on spring break or snow week or whatever the holidays were, I'll go on vacation. But I need time in the morning, time in the evening, when they're napping or crashing, whatever they're doing, where I can do work. And then this way, I feel like, A, I don't come back to thousands of emails. I feel like I'm staying on top of whatever needs to get done and doing my job. And I get to spend time with my family when I'm not working in those 2 or 3 hours during the day. And that worked really well for me. It was harder in the beginning when I used to look for a dial-up line somewhere on vacation, and sometimes dial-up wasn't that good, or I'd have to print out the emails and write notes on them. But technology today is so easy to stay in touch. I think it actually plays well into the way I used to balance work with family. I just integrated the two in a way that worked for my family and worked for the company I was working for. It was one of the things I valued about Adobe early in my career. I didn't mind, they didn't mind, the company didn't mind me leaving 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 3 o'clock in the afternoon to go to the kids' sporting events, my daughter's softball game or my son's soccer game. I was going to go home and work anyway, or go back to the office, depending on what I needed to do, but I was able to be there when they wanted me to be there. I don't think I ever missed a back-to-school night, for instance. So that's how I did it.
As a successful entrepreneur, how would you define success?
There's 2 ways. One is, does your product and your service get valued and adopted by many? I look at, or many is probably the wrong word, by the targeted market that you've chosen. So not many, but you've chosen a customer, a potential user. How many of them are actually using the product or service? And then ultimately, are you making money? Entrepreneurs, unless you're working for a nonprofit, if you're an entrepreneur, at the end of the day, you measure success by, are you making money? Are you building a scalable, sustainable business? And is it something that's scalable and sustainable over time?
What drew you specifically to the tech sector given your non-technical background?
When I was at Mattel, I realized that A, I really liked it, and B, it helped me stand out. Most of the individuals at Mattel at the time came from the toy business, and they were afraid of the video games, of the home computers, of the technology, and they didn't want to go near it. And I said, well, gee, I'm good at it. I like it. And it can help me stand out and differentiate myself. So that's how I got involved in technology. And then I moved over to Microsoft, and it was hard not to get involved in technology. It was sink or swim. Either you could speak and talk, or you couldn't survive there. So I took the time to go as deep as I possibly could without being a computer scientist, so I could survive. But at the same time, there I realized my differentiation was sales and marketing, and I really shined in my ability to take the technical concepts and be able to communicate it in a compelling way.
Okay, great. I've got another question from Forum. And Rita, if I can ask you to move to the next slide, that would be great. Thank you, Jim. Who is your role model and why? We're going to take a second to set up the survey. So we can do that. Bruce, who is your role model and why?
So you want me to answer that question?
Right, but while we first.
What I did is I had role models along the way, and there were some that were more important than others. But what I tried to do wherever I was, starting with Mattel, the first person overnight. And then I went to Adobe and I understood that invention and innovation was really something special, and I really respected and admired the two founders, John Warnock and Chuck Geschke. So what I really tried to do in my career was look at the people I was working with and say, gee, are there aspects aspects of their experience, personality, style, that I really admire, and those were the things about them that became my role model. It's hard to say there's any one individual or person I aspire to.
Yeah, and I'm sure you're really busy, but how do you keep in contact with your relationship, and how do you manage your relationship, the relationship that you built over the years that become very valuable? How do you manage that?
So, first of all, not as important to me anymore, other than the personal relationships. So I don't have to do it as much anymore. When I was working a real job, a full-time job, versus a bunch of part-time casual stuff I do today, I would do email. Email is the most efficient way. You know, somebody would get an article, I see somebody in the morning on CNBC, and I send them a quick note, hey, nice job on CNBC. Caught you there. Or I see that picture in the newspaper, hey, caught you in the newspaper, nice job. Or tough article, or sorry about your earnings, but it sounds like things are turning around. So just, you know, people want acknowledgement for what they do, regardless of where they sit. And I was just really good at that. I always took this approach of being nice, other than the few jerks that I had to deal with in my career. For the most part, I was always nice to people, regardless of where they sat in an organization, regardless of whether they were a CEO or the janitor. It's like my approach to that was just be nice to everybody, because you know, you go through life once. I'm no better than anybody else. I'm just doing my job as an individual. And so I always stay in touch with people. I was always nice to people, always friendly. And to this day, and a lot of what I do today is connect people. So most CEOs of most of the companies usually return my email and my phone call to this day, which I'm really proud of.
Okay, let's look at the survey results. Thank you. It's hard to see the results because we're kind of blocked right now. But I think D was.
All of the above. Yeah, all of the above. He was all of the above.
So if we could, which I think is your answer. One of the things about entrepreneurship is these are individual answers. These are answers that work inside different corporations. But Adobe was very successful, and I consider corporate entrepreneurship, which is really hard. It's really hard. I mean, it's one thing to become successful over one product, become dominant, expand, and to continually introduce new products and become dominant into new markets is really tough. And so we'd be remiss if we didn't take this opportunity to talk to you a little bit about how maybe one of your first experiences that you learned from that Adobe, and then how you managed that.
Yeah, it is really hard in that companies get really good at what they do. It's what they know. And you end up building a culture based around the success of that first business. And it was my early experience at Adobe that helped me understand that you really could build new businesses within a company if you have the right ingredients. When I first started with Adobe, I was tasked with how do you enter new businesses, leveraging its resources. And I realized, first thing I realized, Adobe had no business of being in a new business unless there was some leverage to be had. Because if you're going to do a startup, you're better off doing a startup that's VC backed with a bunch of people who really have either domain knowledge or willing to work 24 hours a day or have a startup mentality. So in my case, it was, gee, Photoshop technology is really good. Maybe I could leverage